Hi guys, so Boris Johnson released a video regarding the coronavirus and what the government is doing, so let's hear what he has to say.
Good evening. I want to bring you up to date on some of the things the government is doing to defeat the coronavirus epidemic in this country and around the world. And first of all, let's be in no doubt, this has been a sad, sad day. 563 more cases, a record in a single day. Our thoughts go out to the families of the victims, all their friends. But let's be in no doubt that if we can follow the programme that we're currently set upon, if we can comply with the measures that we've embarked on together, then I've absolutely no doubt that we will begin to start to push those numbers down, and we'll...
Okay, but what about the numbers of ventilators? So, there has been some recent news about 30 ventilators available. Not 30,000, 30. Now, my good friend QA Library has pointed out that this is perhaps a real number, these are numbers that have been signed off as being working units so that they can later ramp up. But the government haven't qualified this. They haven't confirmed, yes, these are 30 ventilators, but later by the weekend we'll have 30,000 or 29,000. All that seems to be available after this consortium was organized is 30. I hope this is wrong. I hope it's not only 30. I hope it's a lot more than 30. But the news at the moment seems to be only 30. The government haven't confirmed any more than that.
Turn the tide of the coronavirus, as I say, in the course of the next few weeks and months. Now, I want to bring you up to speed on some of the things that we're doing, above all, to protect our NHS, and we've shipped just in the last couple of weeks 397 million separate pieces of personal...
Okay, so this is something that I don't understand. I saw videos, I saw campaigns online by members of the NHS to raise money to buy personal protection equipment, PPEs. Now, we were under the illusion that there wasn't any available. The problem was about availability, not cost. So why did members of the NHS have to raise money to buy this equipment? And why are we reading almost every day about this charity or this company or Apple, for example, who are providing the NHS or different organizations, medical organizations, with masks or with PPEs or whatever. This isn't just a problem in the UK. This is a problem worldwide, where health systems are incapable of buying protective equipment for their staff. Why is this the case? Because if it was a problem of money, then we know who to blame, the politicians. But if it's not a problem of money, then why are these things a problem to find?
Protective equipment to look after our amazing NHS staff and...
Okay, but why are you doing this now? Why are you saying, now we're going to buy millions of... You know how many members of staff work for the NHS. So why wasn't an order put in immediately? Months ago? Even weeks ago? Everything seems to be done, have been completed when Boris went sick. Before that, nothing was taking place. Boris was saying about, we'll turn the tide in 6 weeks. Now he's saying a few months. Now we're ramping up production of ventilators instead of doing it before. I've said this before, and I've also said it on the stream. There's no reason, there's no excuse for this, because Italy started to show problems weeks ago. Italy went into lockdown 3 or 4 weeks ago. So Italy was an example in Europe of a problem. So there's no reason for any other country in Europe, and I'm including the UK here, I'm not talking about the EU, I'm talking about Europe in general. There's no reason for anyone else to be late, to be sitting on their hands, when the problem is manifesting in Italy.
The army reservists and others are doing a quite amazing job of shipping that stuff around.
I want to say something about this. So you have the army reservists doing frontline work. This is serious, because this means that the system is collapsing. Because when you have to bring in the army, it means that the frontline services are not able to deal with the problem. And the army here in Italy was brought in recently when the system was starting to collapse. The healthcare system in Lombardy was starting to collapse. Then they brought in the army. But Boris is bringing in the army in the UK now. So I don't want to speculate here, but this to me is not a good sign, because normally the army is brought in at the end, but not at the beginning, which could point to the NHS has already collapsed.
And the country. We're also massively increasing testing. And I want to say a special word about testing, because it is so important. And as I've said for weeks and weeks, this is the way through.
No, you have not said for weeks and weeks. You have ignored this for weeks and weeks. And now you're saying, oh, now we have to test? Why was testing not carried out when the problem started in Italy? All of this could have been dealt with before. You can't. There's no point testing when the problem has already arrived. You need to be testing before that, or at least at the very beginning. You have to be testing. There's no point testing weeks and weeks and weeks into the problem, because you're fighting against the stream. You're fighting against the waves, standing in the ocean, attempting to stop the ocean from waves from coming in on top of you. Testing works when it's carried out at the very beginning. Italy now is attempting to test as much as possible, but it's too late in many cases. And now testing in the UK, ramping up testing. This testing should have been done weeks ago.
This is how we will unlock the coronavirus puzzle. This is how we will defeat.
It's not a puzzle. It's a virus. It's a simple organism. It spreads. We know how it spreads. It spreads by touch. It spreads in other ways. You know how you have to deal with it. You have to test early. You have to have a full and complete lockdown. You need to educate people. I'm seeing videos online on Twitter of people still taking the tube, still getting on trains, not respecting distances, people walking around without masks on. The longer you leave it, the longer it will take to resolve the problem, and the longer you're going to have at the end to resolve, to get out of this problem. Look at China. The problem started in the beginning of January. That's when they had the lockdown in China. And now they're exiting the problem. The lockdown, I should say. They're exiting it now. We're in April.
Defeat it in the end. And what we need to do is massively ramp up not just tests so that you can know whether you've had the disease in the past, the so-called antibody test, because that will enable you to go to work in the confidence that you can't be infected or infectious. Second, people need to know whether they haven't got it, rather than isolating themselves at home for no reason.
But why are you talking about having two tests if you're not even carrying out one test? So he's talking about having an antibody test, and he's talking about having a COVID-19 test. But if you're not testing anyone or sufficient numbers with even one of these, why are you talking about spending time testing people for both of them? It's still crazy that many NHS staff have not been tested for COVID-19. Why? If there's a shortage of tests, we understand this. But you can't just say we're ramping up tests. But there are staff who are on the front line who are putting their lives on the line, and they're not being tested.
And that's very, very important above all for our NHS staff. And of course, it's crucial that people who do have the disease are able to to be tested positive and to take the necessary steps to isolate at home in the way that I am doing and many, many others are doing as well. And I just want to reassure you on that last point that although I am sequestered here in number 10 Downing Street, I am, thanks to the miracles of modern technology, able to be in constant touch with my officials, with everybody in the various departments across the whole of Whitehall who is coordinating the response to coronavirus. And I'm absolutely confident that we will beat it, and we will beat it together, and we will do it by staying at home, protecting our NHS, and saving lives.
It's a pity that you hadn't, in your party, hadn't invested in the NHS over the last 10 years. Then they'd be in a better position to actually save lives. But I think this is water that's gone under the bridge and we can't talk about it anymore. I don't know what else to say. You're approaching this problem too late. And anything you do now is going to be extremely limited in its effectiveness. Anything you do is going to be limited. You're going to have limited results. And the lockdown and the measures that you're taking now are going to have to be extended longer and longer because you started later. I really feel for the members of the NHS. I'm seeing pictures every day of doctors and nurses wearing insufficient protection. If you compare it to the protection that the doctors and nurses had in China, also here in Italy, they have a huge amount of protection. There's been no expense spared on the protections. But in the NHS, they don't seem to have that. And I said before, if you lose your frontline staff, that you don't have the reserves to replace them. You're going to see the collapse of the NHS. You're going to see hospitals closing because they can't take in any more people, any more infected victims. And what will happen? These people will die at home. And you're going to have a huge number of deaths, not just from COVID-19, but also people who have been waiting to get into hospital for surgeries or for treatments for conditions unrelated to this, because the hospitals will be collapsing. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, much appreciated. Thanks.